If there's one thing that's become crystal clear over the last decade of NBA basketball, it's that the league is now completely driven by analytics.
Analytics come in now, I don't know if they did this before, and they say we have to play this way.
What's your three-point percentage? What's your wingspan? How many points per game do you average? Every decision, roster moves, play style, even contracts, is dictated by analytics, almost as if teams are playing a real-life video game.
Very hard.
This shot is worth 1.5 more than this shot.
No one has shaped this data revolution more than Daryl Morey. His philosophy, now known as Morey Ball, has completely revolutionized the modern NBA by emphasizing three-pointers and layups while diminishing the importance of mid-range shots. The idea is simple. Crack the numbers, and you crack the game.
That's a three, and that ties the record. That's number 29.
Many would argue, however, that this numbers-first approach makes the game too predictable, draining the excitement. But for teams chasing wins, the analytics rule. If the data says it works, nothing else matters. And then there's Jimmy Butler, who refuses to play by the numbers.
He's always better with a ball handler. And that pass from Draymond to Butler!
At 35 years old, the Warrior star is a glitch in the matrix of modern basketball. He's a below-average three-point shooter. He doesn't have elite length. And if you looked at his stats alone, you'd think he was just another role player. By today's metrics, he shouldn't be this good. But somehow, he keeps breaking the algorithm. Every team he touches turns into a contender. And in 2025, he's rewriting the script again, turning the Warriors from a league-wide afterthought into a legitimate threat.
They won 10 straight games that Jimmy Butler's played in, so pretty much every locker room with Jimmy Butler I've been in postgame is a winning locker room, which is also...
How is Butler doing this? Why don't his numbers reflect his impact? And the biggest question of all, is Jimmy Buckets exposing the limits of NBA analytics? Before the 2025 trade deadline, the Warriors were in serious trouble. They were dropping game after game, Steph Curry was clearly frustrated, and the team looked like it was slowly falling apart.
The Golden State Warriors 2024-25 NBA season might be over.
Warriors fans online were desperately searching for answers, but nothing seemed to make sense. Some believed the Warriors needed another top 20 player next to Steph. Others thought they needed a true point guard and floor general. And then there were those who felt it was time to blow it all up and rebuild.
You need to rebuild, and you need to blow it up, and you need to be drastic, whatever it is that you do, because that's the only way that you can potentially hit on something that's going to point you in the right direction.
In the end, the Warriors landed Jimmy Butler, a player who, through 25 games with the Heat this season, was averaging just 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Numbers that wouldn't even get you into the All-Star game in today's NBA. And if that wasn't bad enough, according to 2K, Jimmy wasn't just outside the top 20. He wasn't even top 40. Jimmy Butler was ranked as just the 48th best player in the league. On paper, this team should have collapsed. But instead, the exact opposite happened.
By 21. Wild. That was something else. With 4 titles and now 500.
By all accounts, this made no sense. If the numbers were the ultimate truth, how did the Warriors go from rock bottom to dominance overnight? all by adding a player the stats were against.
Bro, I'm jumping out the window right now, dog. They are a Western Conference Finals max team. Like, you know them Jimmy Butler teams, bro, it's like...
Even after joining Golden State, Jimmy's effective field goal percentage dropped to 47.3%. For context, Russell Westbrook gets ripped apart for his inefficiency, and yet Jimmy was now in the same category. But the Warriors were still winning because of him. He's defying everything the modern NBA is built on, the idea that numbers dictate success. So that begs the question, if the numbers are lying, what's the truth? There are things in basketball that numbers will never capture. If I just told you, it might not sink in. So instead, let me show you with stories. In the 2020 NBA Finals, the Miami Heat were already huge underdogs against the Lakers. And then, in Game 3, it got even worse. They lost Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic, their second and third best players. At that point, this wasn't just an uphill battle. It was like climbing Everest with no oxygen. But Jimmy Butler? He didn't care. He went out and dropped a 40-point triple-double without hitting a single three. And in the fourth quarter, after scoring a tough bucket on LeBron James, the guy who had been to almost every finals for a decade, Jimmy looked him dead in the eye and said, "You're in trouble." Just think about that. Short-handed, outmatched, on the biggest stage, and trash-talking one of the greatest of all time? What makes this even crazier is that Jimmy fully believed it.
Jimmy, first I just wanted to clarify. It looked like you said you're in trouble. Is that what you said?
It is what I said.
Okay.
In the 2023 NBA playoffs, the 8th-seeded Miami Heat went up against the 1st-seeded Milwaukee Bucks, the best regular season team in the league. And Jimmy Butler? He didn't back down for a second. He put up insane performances, completely tore them apart, and led Miami to one of the biggest upsets in NBA history, becoming just the 6th number 8 seed ever to take down a number 1 seed. And to make it even better, he looked them straight in the eye and said, "I own you." He didn't just beat the best team in the league. He trash-talked them, he embarrassed them, and made sure they knew it. Jimmy Butler isn't in the NBA to make friends. He doesn't beg for help. He doesn't actively team up with other superstars. And the reason he's been criticized, the reason he's bounced around the league, it's because not every team is built for his mentality.
He brings it every single possession. And see, when I think of guys with the Mamba mentality, I need to look at guys and watch guys that play every possession, not every minute, but every second. And Jimmy falls under that category.
This is the dog factor. You won't find it on a box score. You won't see it in any advanced analytics. And honestly, I don't think numbers can even quantify it. But whatever it is, Jimmy has it in spades. And yet, NBA teams look at his 17-5-5 stat line and think, nothing special. And that's why time and time again, they let him walk. And look, I'll be real, I was guilty of this too. When Jimmy first joined the Warriors, I wasn't sure what to expect. But when the team was struggling, when the season looked like it was slipping away, Jimmy stood firm, like King Leonidas, with the belief of a warrior facing 300 against 1,000,000.
Let's get it. Championship coming soon.
Most superstars, maybe even all of them, wouldn't have the nerve to say that. But Jimmy, the dog in him can. Like the saying goes, life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man, but sooner or later, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. And that right there, that's the dog factor. That's the thing numbers will never measure. Here's a clip of Allen Iverson, an NBA superstar from over 2 decades ago, responding to a reporter asking if going to practice would make his teammates better.
How the
hell can I make my teammates better by practicing?
NBA players probably get the idea of making their teammates better on a surface level. But do they really understand it on a DNA level? Kobe Bryant had every move on offense and was a lockdown defender. But even he admitted there was one more level to his game. Not a skill, not better footwork, but making his teammates better.
Once I realized that my goal really is to be the best player I can be. And then what that means helping my teammates be the best players that they can be. And once I figured that out, then my game went to another level.
It's not always an assist on the box score. It's not necessarily a +1 in the plus-minus department. But the impact? It's real. For a first-hand example, just look at Jimmy Butler's time with the Miami Heat. For the first 2 seasons, Bam Adebayo was just a decent role player, putting up mediocre numbers at best. Then in 2020, when Jimmy arrived, Bam suddenly became a double-double machine, an all-star and one of the best defensive players in the NBA.
He raised the level of play around people. Yes, sir. He make you play harder. He just make you care a little bit more.
Then, after Jimmy moved to Golden State, look at what happened to Steph Curry. Before Jimmy arrived, whispers of Steph slowing down were growing louder. But now, he's setting defenses on fire again.
Steph from midcourt. Oh, come on! Did he ghost him on that too?
The fact is, Jimmy Butler elevates his teammates. There's no stat for this, no flashy metric, nothing the NBA can measure. But the proof is in his track record. And if that's not the essence of an MVP, then what is? If there's one thing to learn from Jimmy Butler, it's this. Never let numbers define who you are. Think about it. What was your GPA in school? How many followers do you have? What's your net worth? We live in a world where numbers seem to decide everything. Your intelligence, your status, your worth. But here's the thing. Numbers don't measure heart. They don't measure resilience. They don't measure the fire inside you. If they did, Jimmy Butler wouldn't be where he is right now. Because by the numbers, he was never supposed to be this guy. An unranked recruit out of high school, the last pick in the first round of the NBA draft, traded, doubted, overlooked, again and again. And yet, at every stop, he's rewritten the narrative. Because, as Jimmy keeps showing us, numbers don't define you. Only you define that. And that's what I love about him. It's not about basketball. It's about never being intimidated, no matter the odds. It's about never looking at Goliath and backing down just because he's bigger. It's about always believing in yourself and the people around you until the very end. That kind of mindset, it changes everything. And now that he's on the Warriors, sheesh. On the other hand, while Jimmy Butler is elevating a team, the Dallas Mavericks front office is tearing one down. Somehow, instead of making their team better, they've managed to make it worse, to a level I don't think I've ever seen before. And Luka, he's exposing it all with every game. If you want to see exactly what I mean and how the Mavs ended up in this catastrophe, then click on this video here where I break down exactly how the Mavs fell apart.